I was just the neighbor who helped with groceries. Now I'm the sole executor of her estate, and her children are losing their minds. I'm 32F, writing this because I'm in over my head, and I honestly don't know if I've made a massive mistake by being too nice. 3 years ago, I moved into a small townhouse. My neighbor, Mrs. Gable, 84F, was a fixture on her porch. It started small. I saw her struggling with a heavy bag of potting soil one Saturday, so I carried it to her backyard. Then it was picking up her prescriptions when the weather was bad. Eventually, it became a weekly routine. I'd do my grocery shopping, call her for a list, and then we'd spend an hour having tea while I put her things away. Mrs. Gable is sharp, witty, and very proud. She never asked for help. I always had to frame it as, I'm going anyway. Over those 3 years, I learned a lot about her. She was a widow, a retired librarian, and she lived very modestly. She also had 3 adult children, Mark, Sarah, and David. In the 3 years I've lived here, I've seen her children maybe 4 times total. Usually for an hour on Christmas or Mother's Day. They always seemed rushed, annoyed by her rambling, and they never stayed for the dinner she'd spend all day preparing. Mrs. Gable never complained to me, but I could see the quiet slump in her shoulders after they'd leave with their to-go containers. About 6 months ago, Mrs. Gable's health took a sharp turn. She had a minor stroke, followed by a series of complications. I was the one who found her. I was the one who stayed with her in the ER until 3 a.m. because her children didn't pick up their phones. When they finally did show up the next day, they didn't ask how she was feeling. They asked if she had proper insurance coverage for a long-term care facility because they simply didn't have the space for her. While she was recovering, Mrs. Gable asked me to bring her a specific blue folder from her desk. She told me she wanted to update her will. I encouraged her to call a lawyer, which she did. She asked me to sit in on the meeting, as a witness and a friend. I didn't think much of it until the lawyer asked for my full legal name and ID. Mrs. Gable looked me in the eye and said, "My children have already spent my money in their heads. They talk about this house like it's a burden they can't wait to sell. You're the only person who has treated me like a human being in a decade." I tried to protest. I told her I didn't want her money. I told her it would cause problems. She told me that if I didn't take it, she'd leave it to a cat sanctuary she'd never visited just to spite them. She wanted her assets to go to someone who actually valued her life, not her death. 2 weeks ago, Mrs. Gable passed away peacefully in her sleep. The funeral was small. Her children were there, looking more impatient than grieving. Afterward, we gathered at the lawyer's office for the reading of the will. I didn't want to go, but the lawyer insisted I was required to be there. It was uncomfortable. The children were talking about real estate prices in the lobby. Mark was already looking up the trade-in value of his car. Then the lawyer started reading. Mrs. Gable left each of her children a fixed sum of $10,000. It sounds like a lot, but for an estate that included a fully paid-off home in a high-value area and a substantial investment portfolio, it was a fraction of the total. The remainder of the estate, the house, the savings, and the investments, was left to me. The silence in the room was deafening. Then Sarah started laughing, thinking it was a joke. When the lawyer didn't laugh back, it turned into a scream. They accused me of elder abuse, of brainwashing a dying woman, and of predatory neighboring. I didn't say a word. I just sat there. The lawyer calmly explained that Mrs. Gable had undergone a psychiatric evaluation before signing the new will specifically to prevent these claims. She had also recorded a video message explaining her decision. Since then, my life has been a nightmare. They are calling me at all hours. They've threatened to sue. They've told me I'm stealing their inheritance. Mark even showed up at my house, which is right next to his mother's, and stood on the sidewalk shouting that I was a con artist. I never wanted this. I was just trying to be a good neighbor. I feel guilty because I know they are her blood, but I also know how they treated her. I haven't touched a cent of the money, and I'm afraid to even step foot in her house. Am I the person who ruined a family? Should I just give it to them to make this stop? Section 2, Top Reddit Comments. Comment 1, you didn't ruin a family. The children ruined their relationship with their mother through years of neglect. Mrs. Gable was a grown woman of sound mind who made a choice about her own property. If you give that money back, you are disrespecting her final wishes. She chose you for a reason. Comment 2. Document everything. Every phone call, every text, and especially Mark showing up at your house. This is no longer about being nice. This is a legal matter now. If they are harassing you, you need a restraining order. Do not engage with them directly. Comment 3. I've seen this happen as a paralegal. The neglectful kids show up the moment the check is being written. Please understand that Mrs. Gable likely knew they would react this way. That's why she had the psychiatric evaluation and the video message. She protected you because she knew they would attack you. Trust her judgment. Comment 4. There is a reason she only gave them $10,000. In many jurisdictions, giving a small specific amount makes it much harder to contest a will than leaving someone nothing at all, because it proves they weren't forgotten by mistake. She was very intentional. Honor that. Comment 5. You aren't stealing an inheritance. An inheritance is a gift, not a debt. No one is entitled to someone else's money just because they share DNA. They failed the being a decent human test for years. Comment 6. The fact that they were talking about real estate prices before the will was even read tells you everything you need to know about their characters. Don't let them bully you into giving up what Mrs. Gable wanted you to have. Comment 7. How much are we talking about here? A house and a substantial portfolio could be millions. If so, you need your own lawyer immediately, not just Mrs. Gable's estate lawyer. You need someone to represent your interests against the harassment. Comment 8. OP, please don't cave. If you give them the money, they won't suddenly start liking you or thinking you're a good person. They'll just think their bullying worked. Use the money to do something Mrs. Gable would have loved. Comment 9. The irony is that if they had just been kind to her, they probably would have inherited everything. They traded their mother's love for the hope of a payday, and they lost both. That's on them, not you. Comment 10. Keep your doors locked and get a doorbell camera. Greed makes people do very dangerous things. Section 3. OP Update. It's been a little over a week since my last post. Thank you to everyone who commented. Reading your perspectives helped me realize that my guilt, while natural, is being used as a weapon against me. Things have escalated, though not in the way I expected. 3 days ago, I received a formal demand letter from a lawyer representing Mark, Sarah, and David. It wasn't a lawsuit, not yet, but a list of demands. They wanted a full inventory of the house's contents, they wanted me to voluntarily renounce my position as executor, and they offered a settlement where I would keep $50,000 and they would split the rest. The letter was full of accusations, claiming I had undue influence over Mrs. Gable in her diminished state. I took the advice of some commenters and hired my own attorney. He's a bit of a shark, and he was very clear. Do not speak to them. Do not text them back. Everything goes through me. My lawyer sent a response back that was essentially a polite version of "go away." He included a transcript of the psychiatric evaluation and mentioned the existence of the video Mrs. Gable left behind. That's when the ally in the family reached out. David, the youngest son, called me from a blocked number. He sounded different than the others, less angry, more exhausted. He admitted that he knew his mother had been unhappy with them. He told me that Mark and Sarah were spiraling because they both have significant debt they were planning to pay off with the house sale. He asked me, "Just between us, don't you think it's a bit much? You knew her for 3 years. We're her children. Doesn't that count for anything?" It was the first time I felt myself wavering. He didn't yell, he just sounded sad. I told him that I didn't ask for this, but I have to respect his mother's wishes. He sighed and said, "I hope the money is worth the trouble it's going to cause you," and hung up. My lawyer later found out that Mark had actually tried to enter Mrs. Gable's house using an old key he found in her garage. Thankfully, I had changed the locks the day after she passed. He was caught on my doorbell camera kicking the door in frustration before leaving. The most emotional part of this week, however, was watching the video Mrs. Gable left for me. The lawyer played it in his office. In the video, she's sitting in her favorite chair. She looks tired but very calm. She says, If you're watching this, my children are likely making you feel like a thief. I want you to remember that I didn't give you these things as a payment for the groceries. I gave them to you because you gave me my dignity back. You listened to my stories like they mattered. You didn't look at your watch once when I talked about the library. My children stopped seeing me as a person years ago. They saw me as a bank that was taking too long to close. Please use the house. Live in it. Or sell it and travel. Just don't let them take the last choice I ever made away from me. I cried through the whole thing. Seeing her again made the guilt evaporate and turn into a very cold, hard resolve. I am not giving them the money. I've started the probate process. My lawyer is preparing for a potential lawsuit, though he thinks they don't have a leg to stand on because of the no contest clause in the will. Apparently, by accepting the $10,000 Mrs. Gable left them, they may forfeit their right to challenge the rest of the will. If they sue, they risk losing even that. The tension is still there. I see Mark's car driving slowly past my house sometimes in the evening. It's unsettling. I've had to install a more robust security system, and I don't go for walks in the neighborhood alone anymore. It feels like I'm living in a fortress of someone else's making. Follow-up comments plus op replies. Comment 1. I hope the money is worth the trouble it's going to cause you. That sounds like a veiled threat from David. Don't assume he's the good one just because he's playing good cop. He's still trying to guilt-trip you into giving him money he didn't earn. Comment 2. The no contest clause is brilliant. Mrs. Gable really thought this through. She gave them just enough to trap them. If they take the $10,000, they're basically agreeing the will is valid. If they fight it, they get $0. She played the long game. Comment 3. OP, have you looked through the house yet? There might be items of sentimental value that aren't money that you could offer them as a peace offering? Or would that be a mistake? OP reply, my lawyer advised against giving them anything right now. Any gift of property could be seen as an admission that the will is unfair or that I feel I don't rightfully own the contents. It's sad, but I've been told to keep everything under lock and key until probate is closed. Comment 4. How are you holding up emotionally? This is a lot of trauma to deal with right after losing a friend. OP reply, honestly? I'm exhausted. I miss her. Every time I see a brand of tea she liked at the store, I start to reach for it before I remember. The money feels like a heavy weight right now, not a win. But hearing her voice in that video gave me a lot of strength. Comment 5. Be careful with Mark. If he's already trying to break in, he's desperate. Debt makes people do irrational things. Please make sure your lawyer knows about the slow drives past your house. OP reply, I've logged every instance with the police. There isn't much they can do since he's on a public street, but there's a paper trail now. My lawyer is also looking into a cease and desist for the whole family. Comment 6. You're doing the right thing. The blood is thicker than water argument is always used by people who have treated their family like garbage. Comment 7. The fact that they were in debt and counting on her death to bail them out is the ultimate proof of why she did this. She didn't want her life's work to be sucked up by their poor decisions. Op's final reply. I'm currently sitting in my kitchen, looking out at Mrs. Gable's garden. The weeds are starting to come up, and it's killing me that I can't just go over there and pull them without feeling like I'm being watched. My lawyer says this will likely take months, if not a year, to fully resolve if they decide to litigate. The house sits empty, a silent monument to a woman who just wanted to be heard. I don't feel like a rich woman. I feel like a guardian of a very expensive secret. I don't know what happens next, but I know I can't let them bully me into erasing Mrs. Gable's last act of autonomy. I just hope, eventually, I can sit in her garden again without looking over my shoulder.